Most entrepreneurs fail to scale not because their offer isn't good, but because they don't understand the systems required to build a robust business behind it. In this video, I'm going to show you how to analyze your offer, find your audience, and then really hone in on your sales process so that you're able to convert more of your leads into sales. It's really important that you stick around to the end because I have an amazing giveaway and I'll put that in there, and it's free to everyone. It's not a one whatever. So stick around to that very end and you'll get that freebie. So let's jump right in. So who is this for? So we're focused on helping businesses scale their revenue, and it really doesn't matter their size. This is really focused on the sales process and sales professionals. However, we focus on how you systemize that across the business, including marketing, prospecting, and then of course the close. Now, what are we going to focus on? Like I said, we're going to focus on that offer. So it's the service you're providing and how you're presenting it to leads. Then we're going to focus on the audience. Where are we actually finding people that want what you're solving? Because sales isn't really about convincing someone to buy from you. It's about telling someone who already needs that service and explaining to them in a very clear way, reducing risk so that they're interested in working with you because you can solve their pain points. And then, of course, we have the sales process from discovery to pitch to close. Now, just a quick little credibility about me. My name's Scott Bartnick. I'm a 2x Inc. 5000 CEO. I've received awards like the Gator 100, Gold Stevie Award, and over 35 other industry awards. And I've been featured on basically every major outlet for excellence in entrepreneurship and leadership. Now, the first pillar is offer. If you're feeling stuck on offer, then what I would recommend doing is going and looking at the Inc. 5000. That is a list of businesses making multi-million dollars who are rapidly growing. I don't know the exact criteria, but I think they had to have over $1 million in revenue 3 years ago, and then it basically had to double at some point throughout that time frame. So these businesses are growing, which means they have either a really good offer, a really good sales process, or something in between that's going to allow you to at least get some ideas. And not only that, you can look at repeatable businesses in here. So maybe there's 25 recruiting agencies or something that interests you that you'd be interested in going into where you see an opportunity. Now, I own Otter Public Relations, and what we found is one of our opportunities was right down below. It's the fact that most of our competitors had 1-year minimum contracts, no guarantees, and very little social proof. So we set across a team to build out month-to-month services, guarantees every single month, and to build as many reviews, case studies, social proof, badges, credibility, publications, features as humanly possible to make sure that we stood out as not a good PR firm, but the best PR firm. And that's why we're ranked #1 on Clutch, G2, and Upcity, because we heavily focus on that credibility piece. Now, what is a good offer versus a bad offer? And we've gone through this. A bad offer is, do you want to be featured in the news? Do you want PR? That's just very basic, book a call. There's no guarantees. It's vague. I actually don't even really know what I'm getting. Versus what we did was, would you like to be featured in top tier news in the next 60 days? Guaranteed. Which one gives you less risk? Is it the let's book a call to hire a publicist, or is it get guaranteed publications in 60 days or your money back? Which one would you go with? So that is a big piece of going into the sales process, is understanding your pitch or your marketing to get those leads in. Now, how do you actually find these customers or this audience? So a lot of this is going to stem more on the marketing side, or if you don't own the business and you're just a sales team, you might not be building out some of these assets on the organic or the paid. You might not be responsible for that, but there are certain things you can control. One is your personal brand. And if you don't want to build it all around the company, but you want to build it around being a sales professional, you want to just build it around being professional, whatever that looks like, I would always recommend at least having professional business card like social media, LinkedIn, things like that. That will help, and you can use those for lead gen. But traditionally, what it comes down to is email marketing, cold calling, SMS. These are the tools that you have at your hand all the time that will allow you to be successful, will allow you to generate your own leads, and will help you convert long into the future and outpace everyone else on your team. Now, here's the meat of this presentation. We really want to get into the sales process. And I want to be so clear that sales has nothing to do with convincing someone to purchase something they don't want. You're seeing this more and more on social media, but most of the sales process comes from discovery and finding the leads that actually need what you're looking for. Now, I'm sure you guys have all heard the example of sell me this pen. A lot of times I'll do interviews and I'll ask you, sell me this pen, sell me this water cup, whatever. The real way to answer that is doing discovery. Well, how long have you been in the market for a pen? What type of pen do you typically use? I'm not even sure this is the right pen for you. What are you using that pen for? And what we're doing is we're doing discovery, and you're not forcing them to buy the pen. They have to want a pen. Like it's that simple as you're finding people that want and need your service. So that way you have long-term customers. Now, we're going to go through the pillars of sales, and it's really simple. And I think that we don't want to overcomplicate this. It really is ask questions, discovery, explain your service, pitch, and then ask for the sale. That's it. If you're doing that in one call, if you're doing that in two calls, if you're doing that in three calls, our team does it in one or two based on who they're talking to. Occasionally, they'll go to three or four on those enterprise deals. But the number one mistake I see people make is they don't ask the right questions. They don't understand what that person's looking for, and they pitch before they do discovery. I actually just reviewed a sales call with one of my team members, and we walked through it, and I didn't even have to say anything. We were watching the video, and he's like, "Shit," and I was like, "What do we do?" And he's like, "I pitched way too early," and it happens. People get tired, fatigue. It's really just a simple process. Discovery, learn everything as much as you can about what they need, and make sure you're asking the right questions because you're going to use that later on in your pitch and you're going to use that in your close. So we use acronym that's IMPACT, basically investigate, motivate, pain, authority, capacity, timeline. All this really is outlining things that we need to know to help them close. So investigate is learning more about their business, their brand, what's motivating them to move forward in this direction. Why do they want this? What pain and how is it hard for them, or why can't they do it themselves? The authority, are they a CEO, a founder? Do they have budget? Capacity is really focused on that budget. I go back and forth on whether to ask budget, but I found historically it's been very successful because people will either tell you exactly what their budget is, or they'll say they don't really want to answer, and that's perfectly fine. You can still go through your process and sell. And then timeline is one of those things that is actually a very critical question because it'll help you set up whether you're going to go for the close or go for next steps. Now, our pitch process, if we've done discovery correctly, then the pitch becomes very easy. My team has been trained that a pitch is 30 seconds. If I see them doing a 2-minute pitch, a 5-minute pitch, they get in trouble because we're going to yield to the customer later and they're going to be able to answer questions, go back and forth, dive deeper into specific things. So we have summarize, tailor to that person's needs, outline their solution. So outline what we're actually going to do. Reveal, that's actually for my team, we show case studies, we show exactly how things work, and then yield. So typically what we're doing is we're just focusing on this first part is being a very short 30-second pitch. And then based on the yield and reveal, that's where it'll take a little longer. We'll do a case study, and case study is maybe another minute. And then yield is that back and forth where we're actually handling their objections, answering questions, clarifying to what they're asking. And that way we're not overselling and we're not selling the wrong thing or selling something they're not interested in. Now, objection handling. So it's really important that we first hear and listen. This is something that so many salespeople don't do. It's the same thing in the discovery is they'll ask all these questions as if it's a checklist. Don't do that. You have to ask the questions for a specific reason, and understanding that you're going to use those answers in the pitch and in the close is why you're asking those. So they're giving you the key to the city by hearing. Emphasize. So understand what they're going through. Maybe connect that when you're answering to a specific case that you have. Ask deeper. So maybe in this example, maybe they said, well, we hired a PR firm in the past and it wasn't very successful. Okay, awesome. What wasn't successful about that campaign? Well, we got some coverage, but it wasn't really what we were looking for. Okay, awesome. What are you looking for? Well, we're really looking for top tier coverage or TV placements that lead to at least SEO, if not sales. Okay, perfect. I think I understand. And then we're going to rephrase. So I think I understand. So with your last PR firm, they did get some coverage, but it wasn't the coverage you were looking for, and it didn't really lead to any business impact. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So what we do at Otter is a little bit different. We do X, Y, and Z. Here's a case study to prove how good we are. And this is for the outcome that we got for this client. Well, of course, I can't guarantee you that exact outcome. We do guarantee placements, and we were able to get this for this client who is in a very similar industry as you. And then trial close. Does that kind of resolve what you're looking for? And there you go. So that's how you handle that objection artfully. Now asking for the business. It's only 3 pieces. It's discovery, pitch, and close. And this piece, how many times I've taken new salespeople and they're like, well, my conversion rates are really low. I'm like, but I'm getting really good feedback from my leads. Okay, great. When was the last time you asked for the sale? Yeah. So asking for the sale is a critical part. And we do it really simply. It basically, there's multiple ways to ask for this. But what I like to do is a lot of times we'll present a 1-year option and a 6-month option. I was like, okay, are you leaning more towards that 1-year option or the 6-month option? So that is literally, and they'll say, okay, I'm leaning more towards the 6-month option for X, Y, and Z. Perfect. Let's get started. And then we take credit card over the phone. So you're literally just asking, and there's different ways to ask for that. It can be as simple as, so based on everything you've told me, it sounds like we'd be a really good fit. We're able to solve these pain points with this solution, and you'll should be able to expect this outcome. Does that sound like the right fit for you? Yes. All right. Would you be interested in getting started? Yeah, I would love to. Then get the credit card on the phone. Now, not all sales calls will be able to close in a 1-call sale. You don't have the decision maker on the call, their timeline doesn't align, and you weren't able to, through objection handling, convince them to start sooner. So you say is, okay, so it seems like we're a very good fit, but your CEO needs to review this, which I totally understand. Why don't we reschedule with you next week on Tuesday and get your CEO here and we'll walk through it and hopefully we'll be able to move forward then. Does that sound fair? Awesome. How about 3:30? Okay, perfect. I just sent you the meeting invite. And then that is your micro close. As I said earlier, that will allow you to line them up in the future. And then I a lot of times say, hey, it's also a no pressure. Like if you decide this wasn't the right fit for you, like totally understand, you're able to cancel at any time. So that way it removes that pressure, removes that risk that they're worried about. Now, I want to walk you through a really quick example of a 1-call close that I was able to do. And I turned basically in the future into yes. So I did really good discovery with this call. And basically I set up what they were looking for. So why do you want PR? To get more visibility for my startup. Perfect. Well, how do you think visibility is actually going to help you? Well, I want more sales. I want more conversions. Okay, that makes sense. That's something we can help with. What's your timeline to getting started? Well, I'm pretty interested in getting started right away. We've looked at a couple other firms already. I'm looking in the next week. So I think that all this is a great fit. So then we're able to actually respond with a pitch. So based on the information, we're going to tailor to that specific needs, their pain points. Want to make sure that we're showing a case study relevant to them, showing what we can do to get the results they want. So focusing on a case study that actually drove sales, and then answer any objections. So in this case, he said, well, I'd like to actually talk to my team first and talk to your team on a bigger call because we were doing a one-on-one here. And I was like, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. However, I do know that, it is your business. And I think we had a really good relationship on the call. I do also know your timeline is next week. And we had been talking about doing a 6-month campaign. How about let's do this? Instead of doing that 6-month campaign, let's do a 1-month campaign where you still get all your guarantees. I will give you that 6-month pricing. And then if you're not happy by the end of the 1 month, you can cancel, no problems, no questions asked. However, if you are happy, we'll go ahead and just move into that 6-month campaign for you. How does that sound? Honestly, Scott, that sounds pretty good. Let's go ahead and do that. I was looking to move quickly anyways, which is what I got from that discovery earlier as he told me he was ready to move forward. And so that's why I knew that I had the opportunity to push them towards their close. And I also knew financially, based on just our conversation, that we were in the ballpark. So it wasn't a financial issue. It was a doubt of us being able to provide the service and a fear of that 6-month commitment. So it was a higher risk with that 6-month commitment without knowing who the team was, what the process was, if we're going to have results. Now that client did come on board. We did have a very successful onboarding. I notified my team that this onboarding was very critical, and we were able to get multiple placements in the first month, which then converted into a 6-month contract. So key sales takeaways: listen, do really good discovery and you won't have to sell. Customize your pitch based on the discovery. Always ask for the sale, or at least very clear next steps of what those expectations are. And it could be as simple as, this isn't a good fit. Next step expectations are, go away. And that's perfectly fine. You're not going to make every sale call into a close. Okay, so now the offer that I promised you guys is a full feature on USA Wire. You can scan that barcode, or there'll be a link down below in the description. It is completely free, and we can be as promotional as you want to help you grow and scale your business. That additional credibility will help with your offer, and you can leverage that to get higher conversions in the future. If you like videos like this, I'd really appreciate you subscribing. And down below is a link to the lead magnet where you can get not only that free USA Wire feature, but you can also get a stellar business award. You can get access to my discounted pricing to hundreds of platforms, as well as a lead list to help you start growing and scaling your business today. Thank you.